So, Anne-Marie, welcome. We are now
Thank you.
live in Facebook in my little bitty group. Anne-Marie, you are a creative genius. Yes, this is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you have to own it, I'm afraid. Can you explain what it is that you do? What is it? What is it how do you create your creativeness?
Well, let me start out. I do everything and then I break it down because anything that's visual, that is storytelling, that is just capturing what's in my brain or other people's ideas and make them come true. Like I can just pick out ideas out of nothing and just like conversations. I talk with people and they're like, oh, I wish I had this video or like this kind of content. And then I see it in my eyeballs and I'm like, I can do this for you. I can make it real. I can like get it out of nothing, swirling around and just turn it into a photo or a video, a story, a text, or all together into an overarching brand that really captures your soul. And especially if we are always evolving and changing and learning about ourselves, do that continuously. So it's a journey that you can reflect yourself back on if you can see the progress, but also other people can actually see you as you are in the current state you are in. And then naturally attract the people who like that and then repel the people who really don't like that vibe. And I think that is ultimately the goal when you're being like entirely yourself and authentic, that you are just your natural sorting hat, to get like a Harry Potter reference there. I like to call it like the sorting hat of business, where you just, sort people into, they sort themselves out themselves. So you don't need to cater to the people who actually are not your perfect type by just being yourself. And that is easy, but also hard. And so I like to give the outside perspective, but also the skill set to make it a reality in whatever shape or form that might be.
Perfect. And now tell me, because I know you actually live in Germany and yet you can work with clients all over the world. So explain that and how that process works.
Because, well, before the pandemic, I was living as a digital nomad. So I would live anywhere and everywhere, depending on where I just fancied or where I had like my suitcase or like a jacket to like. And then I wanted to help more people with the skills, because if I can work online, then I can work with people in the US and Australia and England. Like it doesn't matter as long as we're on this wavelength and if they appreciate me maybe making content on the ground, but also making it available digitally, right? And so I figured out over the past half year that it's also possible for me to take photos anywhere in the world while being on the couch. And they could travel, they could be on holiday, they could be in their home office, they could be at an event, and I can, through an app, tap into their phone and then see what their phone sees and then remotely press the button. And through, like a Zoom chat like this, they can hear me, and it's like a conversation with your bestie. Well, like if you go shopping and you get your friend on your video chat to help you pick the clothes, whatever. That's what I'm doing for the photos. So I'm like, turn the phone left, turn it up that way, smile, give me a twirl, like touch this plant, like hold this prop. And it is like this kind of interactive game for me. It sort of feels like a video game where I like direct you and then I see what the direction actually does, because I cannot actually make you do anything. Like I can't touch you or like show you or mirror anything because they don't actually see me because they're away doing their stuff, which I find hilarious. It's like it makes me laugh, it makes them laugh, and that is the entire goal of it, being playful, get out of their heads and just really into the moment where it's an authentic shoot. So like it's a lot of almost candid photo shoots, even though the entire setup is staged in essence, but they also get my entire skill set, my expertise, without having any of the logistics behind it. You don't have to go find a studio, you don't have to go to a studio, you don't have to look at equipment. You have your phone literally on you all the time. If you just have Wi-Fi, you can have me.
Perfect. I think so. I mean, from some of the pictures I've seen, I mean, I could be here in the background that I've got right now, and you just basically will create a whole new background that would in your creative talents.
Exactly. Power of Photoshop. I can create virtually any reality behind you that I wanted. That feels like I always try to merge it and co-create almost with the people, where it's not just me and my vision going crazy, but it's like what I feel they are like, what they would feel like to me. I will capture that. Like, you could just, a lot of my shoots are, if they are more of the collage artistic type, where you can like hang yourself up as a painting almost, I just make my models stand in a bed sheet. I was like, you just wear your bed sheet, and it could be white, it could be blue, I don't care. But you just wrap it around like you're a goddess, like a Roman goddess, and then, drape it, whatever. And then you're just in front of your wall. And that is my canvas of sort. And then one of them I put in a field of orchids that are gigantic, as if they're like in this heavenly space. And then the other day I had somebody like with these badass tattoos and like really black dark hair and like dramatic makeup, and was like, I'm gonna put you and make yourself into like this evil villainess. And she loved it. She's like, I love it, especially with the cat. She's like, that looks like a super villain. And then with the tattoos, and she just looked amazing, like Morticia Adams vibes. And like that was because that's what I felt from her, and it just worked. Like I kind of felt that out. And in the process also, like, of getting to know them during the shoot by asking the most ridiculous questions to engage in this playful thing. Like, it's almost make believe when I do these photo shoots, where I'm like, oh my god, imagine somebody's like tapping on the shoulder, and like, who could it be? Chris Hemsworth, I don't know. Like, and then he's asking you to ride on this horse into the sea, and now you're a mermaid. Like, stuff like that. It's just like, it comes out of my brain unfiltered.
Yeah.
And people are just like blindsided all the time, which gives me the like amazing reactions. And it keeps them away from thinking, do I look good? Like, we don't want any of the thoughts, because yes, you do.
It sounds great. I mean, just talking to you, I can feel, your energy, everything is flowing out so quickly. Yeah. It's like,
oh yeah, it's just like nonstop. Yeah, like, don't think, sit there, like talk there, twirl, like think about it, like throw your hair, and just like, okay.
It sounds quite exhausting for your mind, though, to be constantly in this creative process. Is it tiring?
It's actually better. It's better for me if I have to. I'm not a strategic person of sorts. If I am strategic, then I'm exhausting myself. If I think too many steps ahead, and I always do, but like if I'm in this creative moment, I'm just I don't know, channeling or something. I'm just like in the flow. Like sometimes, depending on what the people give me, some people give me nothing, and then that's really hard. Where I'm just like, oh, so what's your favorite sweet? I don't eat sweets. Okay, what's your favorite food? Yeah, I don't eat. It's just like, nothing. I get nothing. And I'm like, then I'm like stumped. But if I can just go off and like see that they react to things, and then I can like comment on that, or I get questions from them, or I get like when we like these co-create, then I just have no stop, no filter, and it's so easy to just react. And that makes it so much easier for me, instead of just, that's why I'm not a big fan, for me personally, with studio photography, because there's so many things I can control, to the extent that my perfectionism will make it so drab and exhausting and anxiety inducing for me. So that's why I like the when it's really unplanned and really spontaneous to an extent where I have no idea what's going to happen. Like, I'm literally in the blind myself.
Brilliant. I think, I mean, it just, I can imagine the process, because you have that enthusiasm about the creative process, and I can see how it is immediate, and it feels exciting when there's that kind of level of flow of just being in that moment, and not trying to plan or work out or which in a way I think feel quite limiting. Don't you think? You feel a bit kind of, I'm like, I'm in the shape of a box now, because it's like, that's the box. And it's great to have that kind of mindset to just go, right, let's just go. Where are you at now? What is your, because also, isn't there that process of kind of, you see people in their best light, whereas they might not be in that process of having seen themselves in that best light, and it's kind of shining that towards them, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that is my sub goal in a way. Like, I just want them to have fun and great photos. but also through that process, I want them to relax, because they don't see what they're doing. They don't see what I'm doing. They have to completely trust the process. Because usually when you take photos, you can like look at yourself in the camera, you can see, and then you know, the vibe is already off. Or like in the studio photography, they can already show you the images and you can see them mirroring something to you. But like, you just release control and you're just in your best. And like, I also like to aggressively shower them with compliments. Like to like throw them off. I'm just like left feel like I'm just making up a story and suddenly like, your eyes are gorgeous, and they're like, oh my god. You know? Yeah, so like I try to really make those photos so beautiful and gorgeous that they cannot ignore that. And I love to also, like, lately I realized it's so much more fun to actually have a reveal session where I go on a video call with them and then I'm like showing them some of the photos to see their reaction, which gives me like dopamine. It gives me like the validation, because I'm behind, like it's still like a separate creative process. Like we're still co-creating, but they see nothing, I see nothing. And then if I just get a line back like, these photos are great, I'm like, I poured my heart and soul into, like, I want to show you how beautiful you are, and you're like, it's great. Like, is this like my photos are not good enough? Is this like you? I don't know. Like, I just really want them to also hear more about the process, or like why I did what I did, and then just to see how they react. And a lot of them are like, I didn't know I could look like this, or this is amazing, that's me. And I'm just like, yes, this is exactly what I want to like say it out loud and like take it in. And then again, me saying nice things, so I'm just like, yes, you're beautiful. You know, just to get that across, so they can also appreciate it more, instead of just, you know, it's part of also practicing gratitude, I guess. Like, you know, sometimes we just don't even celebrate ourselves. Yes, you are in there. Like, I didn't Photoshop you, I didn't touch you at all. Like, I really make a point of them not being Photoshopped. Everything around them is, but they're like the subject. I don't like retouch them. I just change the colors a little bit to make it artsy, but I don't like erase anything. That's not what I do. And so that's really what they are like. And that's what their phone quality is like, right? So it would be entirely different if it's like a DSLR camera with like every pore. But this one, still, you can look so beautiful with a phone. So like, no excuses to not take selfies and be proud of who you are. Because that's you.
Yeah. So many of us don't, though. We really don't like being in front of a camera, because we kind of hone our eyes to the parts that we don't like rather than looking at the parts that we do. So it's really
the same with the mirror. That's why I like to be their other mirror. You know, like there was this trend on social media where they had this inverted filter where like, this is how people see you, and like, and then people were like shocked because it was just a mirror image basically, which is, you know, because the mirror reflects it differently than you see me, and that shocked people because it just does something in your brain that you can't be as self-critical as before, because you're just seeing yourself in a new light and seeing yourself reverse and stuff. And so like, I kind of want to do that visually and verbally to people, so they can understand that if they feel like they don't look good in photos, it's just a shitty photographer. It's just a shitty moment. The lighting might be off. You are like using a selfie lens, which always distorts everything, especially because you're distance to the camera. There's like technical explanations. There's no reason for you to be like that, but social media trains us to feel inadequate all the time, and there's all these filters, and that trains us to feel like we need to put on makeup, or, you know, like there's all of these things in society that just thrive of us not loving ourselves enough. So I feel like it's a radical way to practice self-love. And I noticed that when I do these photos for myself, and I've been doing them for years now, because people commented like, you take all these pictures and you're never in them. Were you even there? I was like, oh yeah, of course I was there. I took the camera, blah. But they were right, because I didn't even value myself enough to capture this joy in the moment. Even if I looked messy, even if I hiked a mountain and didn't look like a model, I could still take a photo for myself, because that is just a beautiful moment. And then the same with, especially like women and family, they always take photos for everybody, but never themselves. And like, it just breaks my heart how we treat ourselves. And like, yes, you need to document your stage. And then you look back in 10 years and you're like, oh my gosh, I had a great body. Why did I hate it? You know, like we have all of these moments. I'm like,
or you may get sick and you may, you know, wish that you had the opportunity to move the way that you did. You know, there's so many ways in which life can change, can it?
Yeah, exactly. And they're all amazing stages, and they all deserve to be captured and honored in whatever shape or form. And sometimes you don't know it in the moment. But like me looking back at all of the self-portraits I took, I can really see how much I've grown and changed, and how my confidence changed, how much I've tried new things. And like you can just see all of the different persons I have been. And that's just because of photography. It's just, we all know how that is, just capturing a memory, a moment, and an experience. It's like the easiest way to like get back into the moment, because our memories fade over time or get distorted. But like a photography is just, it's there. Like unless you manipulate it, it is what it is. And so
I always think that, you know, it doesn't matter what somebody really looks like. It's more about what how they're feeling. You know, if someone's happy and energized, and you can read it in the face, it's absolutely, and that's the beauty, isn't it? That's the real essence.
Yes,
that it makes anyone beautiful if they've got a big smile on their face. And even if they don't have a smile, you can see the, you know, even if it's looking wistfully off, and you can capture that, and it is real. There is a real art to photography, isn't there?
And that's the thing.
How long have you been doing photography for?
Well, with my business, I've been doing it for like almost 10 years now, but I feel like I've always been doing photography even before I had my first camera, because like I grew up in East Germany, so like having a camera was like so rare. There's even songs about it. And like when I got my first camera when I was, I think, 18, because like I tried to use my cameras, my parents, no, it wasn't 18, like I borrowed cameras when I was 15 for like school trips, and I was the one who always had a finger in front of the lens. Like every photo was like this in some way. I was so bad at it, but like I just saw so much beauty. I was like, oh my god, this rock is pretty in the sun. I took a picture and it was like the most boring picture. Nothing was there, blurry finger, whatever. And I just relentlessly, I was like, I want to capture everything is beautiful. And it just didn't work at all. And my parents were annoyed because like it was like on film, so you have to pay a lot.
I was going to say, digital photography's helped you a lot.
Yes, and then they gave me a digital camera on my 18th birthday, and I was just, it was like attached to me at that point. I was like, I didn't leave without it anywhere. Like people made fun of me, and I would like crouch on the floor, I would crawl in the dirt, I would climb for like trees to get the angle that I saw in my brain. I was like, what if it was like Ant's perspective or this perspective? And I would just like take a gazillion photos. Like if I took like 200 photos and millions of photos, and I learned pretty fast to be good at sorting the stuff out. Like I can just look at the thumbnails and like those all have to go. Like, you know, kill your darlings, like nope. But it just helped you also see details and look at things differently and frame things, because I always like reference in my brain like historic painters in the way they compose things and looked at lighting and stuff. So I always tried to frame it like a painting. That was always my photography teacher. Like I never took any courses or had the patience to read the books or whatever. It really was practicing and being frustrated and then thinking about like, if I made it into a painting, how would I do this? And then I would play with the foreground and all of the things. And it's just like for sheer volume I practiced. And I just loved it. Like it was for nothing, for nobody in particular. It was just for my enjoyment. Perfect. And then I realized I could tell a story, or I can show people what I see. If I'm like, oh my God, this beautiful imagery, do you see that? And they're like, I just see a rubbish bin. Like, what do you see? And then I'm like taking the photos and I show them exactly what it is with the reflection and the light and the shadows, whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, I can see it now. So for me, photography was like my translator for my brain for people.
Right. Okay. I just want to pick up on you saying that you were born in East Germany, and how was that growing up for you?
I don't have memories of that, so I was too young when the wall came down, so I can't say.
Okay.
But people will never ever let me forget that. So Germany is still talking about it. Like, oh, you're from the East. So what? Are you gonna crack a banana joke? Don't. Don't you dare. Oh God. Yeah. But it definitely shaped my upbringing. Definitely, you can tell people it's still there. the Soviets, the Eastern. Yeah.
What is that?
It was like the
For someone completely ignorant to all of it, what is that? What is that comment? How does that feel for you? That comment to say, "Oh, you're East German." What is that? Does it
feels well? It's usually meant in a derogatory manner, like, okay. Oh my God, you're so underdeveloped. Like, poor you. Like, how does it feel to be in the Western world? And you're like,
okay,
we've been united for decades. What is your problem? It's usually a snide remark. It's ignorant as well, but also they're just like, there's still this divide. And I remember in school we even had to have class trips to see what the West is like. So it would like bring West and East closer was the goal, but I never thought about it. I was just like, yeah, we're Germany. Like, what are you talking about? And then I visited those people, and they treated me like shit. And they were asking me all ridiculous questions, as if they have never so do you still have these things? And like, what do you think of our supermarkets? And I was like, I'm not an alien. I was so confused. And that's when I realized how different we are, especially in mind. And I was like, oh, so this actually created a divide in me instead of like bringing it closer. They treated me like this person to like an anthropological study, like a foreign exchange student. And I was like, what? I was so confused. But they're also horrible. They put me up with terrible people. But anyway, I was just like, oh. But like what I noticed with like East, realized more in some ways we're like really hands-on, practical, resourceful, like hoarding to some extent, like from this war mentality. My family has always been like, we have to like save everything, eat up, like repurpose things, not be wasteful, be like really tactical about what to buy, like very anti-consumerist in some way, but also just like if there needs to be fixing, I fix it, I don't buy new, that kind of mentality.
About community.
Well, the thing that is super different still is like kindergartens, they still separate Germany's mentality. It's so funny because I grew up in a kindergarten, so we all went potty next to one another, and that is mortally offensive to the West because we were probably all traumatized seeing genitals. And I'm like, what? So confused. So they have like a nanny of sorts who looks after a couple kids, like a daycare, an hour day. Like there's just this different mentality where like you have to stay at home and look after kids, otherwise you're a terrible mother, but also you need to like work because then otherwise you're also a terrible role model. But like women are much more conservative, the roles are much more expected like that. And then in the East we all had basic housing. There was like essentially no homelessness allowed, so you had a lot of houses. That's why we have these horrible blocks, because everybody needed to live. They just put them there. You still were put on waiting lists, but you needed to have a roof. There was just like ground, like everybody needed food, everybody got like a place to stay, everybody had a job. Most of it was allocated. You didn't have a choice. There was no passion involved. Like depended on who you knew or like what status you were. Like if you were like a worker, a farmer, you had a higher status, and if you were educated, especially if you were religious, that was not allowed. So like there's all of these ridiculous rules. You were always like afraid of somebody blabbing on you because we were like observed and surveyed all the time. So like there was always this distrust with people and also this fierce lack of everything, like you didn't have enough. You just had enough. And then if there was something else, maybe, a Western item, then people would just queue, and then the entire neighborhood would queue. You don't even know what for. It might not even be there by the time you got there, probably not. But it's just like you saw a queue, you stood there. It's like the joke, but it's true. And then, people would come bring you drinks and stuff, so you would keep standing in there. Just maybe you got a banana or ketchup. Like that is just like they keeps you going for a month. You got ketchup, like, oh my God, you can put ketchup on your pasta. Stuff like that. So like it's a different.
There was more gratitude within that there was more.
It was wildly exotic to get like a Western item. And then there's all of these stories where like, oh my God, somebody from the relatives came, they're from the West. Maybe they brought somebody jeans. Oh my God, can you imagine? And then there would be like the talk of the town. Like, oh my God, do you see
But
she
would
has
you be allowed to
jeans?
wear the jeans? Was it okay to?
Yeah,
You're allowed to. Okay.
yeah. If you're not obviously smuggling stuff, then yeah, they, went through clearance and customs and had to be like, I don't know how it exactly went, but you have to like declare all the items, and then they decide if you can ship them over to the east. And then yeah, you can do whatever you want. But yeah, so it's like I don't remember. I was like a tiny baby, so I don't know. I was what, 3, 4 when it came down. So I don't have any memories of that.
Did you get any piece of the wall?
No, but my family, my aunt has a couple. I think my dad has something somewhere. But my aunt was there. She went there and she chiseled, and she has photos sitting on the wall as it came down.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, fascinating times. And it is good to have a reflection of that and to be able to, understand our own heritage and how we've been raised, we come from.
Yeah. And I found it really interesting when I visited Bulgaria for the first time. And I had some American friends. They stayed more in those Soviet bloc areas, like the lower income areas. And I stayed right in the middle in the embassy area. I felt like so posh, but like the entire house was just another of those Soviet blocks crumbling. It was really, really bad state. And this horrible elevator was like, oh my God, this is like me and my childhood. This rickety, you don't trust anything in this elevator. You don't want to touch anything because it's like suspicious. But like it was like exactly like when I was 10. I was like, this is wild. And then I visited my friends and they had I don't know what you call it in English, the paternoster, where it doesn't have a door. It just keeps like going up and you have to jump in. That was like, oh my God, it's just, and everything was crumbling in the exact same stone patterns in the exact same way. Everything fell apart, and like the little railing and the way the kitchen was made up and like all of the little details was like, this is exactly like my childhood. This is wild. And to the Americans, it was like fascinating. They're like, oh my God, this is like so retro. I'm like, okay, we hated it, we really hated it. So yeah, so that was wild.
So tell me about your passions, your hobbies. What do you enjoy? What are you passionate about?
Well, the most important, photography is also my biggest passion. Photo and video, just telling stories, and mostly also in combination with travel. Whenever I can travel, it's just like I am just lit up. I love just exploring the world, and I love meeting people and learning about cultures, and in turn also learning more about myself and questioning everything. You're like realizing all of the things we think are rules or are how things are supposed to be, or whatever. It's just all cultural. It's all made up. It's historic. Like there's so many. It's just nonsense, really, by humans. And then you just cross a country, and then you're like, suddenly you're the most beautiful person with the whitest porcelain skin, and you're so tall. And in the next country, you're like ugly and you're drab and like whatever. And I'm like, okay, so like I can just pick and choose where I am, and then I'm like beautiful, and people clap on the street when I walk by, or I can go to somewhere other and people catcall me, and I'm like, this is all wild. And then you learn how to also trust your gut, and I really love that. And what I really find so amazing about travel, beside all the novelty and learnings, is also just it's like my inner child is like let loose, and I can use the photo and the video to just play. What my favorite thing to do is when I travel is then I go just walk. I just walk anywhere and see what happens. I'm just like, well, let's just go down the street. I don't know what's going on. And then sometimes I see a scene and then I'm like, what if I could dress up? Like for instance, I was in Tokyo and I was like, what if I could just dress up as Sailor Moon? And then that's it. That's the entire video. And I did. I got a friend to get me a wig shipped from the US to her, and she was traveling from the US to Japan, and then she delivered me the wig. And then I dressed up as like Sailor Moon, and I made a video of me missing school in the exact places that the series took place. It was built on real life scenes, and I found the school, I found like the metro station, I found temples, and like all of the things I grew up with as a huge 90s kid and Sailor Moon fan. And I just made a video just for fun, replaying stuff like that. And people on the street were like, oh, great, Sailor Moon. I'm like, yeah. And then I also loved Lara Croft Tomb Raider, growing up with that in the 90s again. And so like if I go see some temple ruins or find abandoned airplanes in lost places, then I'm just putting on like a brown shirt and shorts, like really like Lara Croft from Wish. But I don't care. I'm just like pretending to be an action hero, like make terrible stunts and like walk and run and stuff like that. And then I just make dramatic music and edit it in a fun way. And so it's just like what I see in my head and what I feel in the moment, like make believe, I can like turn into a movie, and then people can see that. And that's what I want people to also feel when they travel, to really take it in, like really enjoy this moment of freedom. And that's what I
Sounds
also
like
like
people
do with my photos.
need to go on holiday with you. That's what you should be, as like a holiday, a tourist
Yeah.
extravaganza. Where you can
Oh
go.
yeah.
They pay you millions to be the entertainment guide, where you can.
Oh yeah, I know all the ridiculous things, and I find all the coolest places, and I find like I'm the most introverted person, but when I travel, I just I just talk to or attract people who then just give me some random tips, and I just rock up there, and it's like the most amazing thing that nobody touristy would have looked up. Just because I'm like in the right places. Like I remember this one time I was super lost in Tokyo because the entire naming streets and location, like it doesn't make sense. Google Maps doesn't work, and you can't even ask people for directions to a street because nobody knows it. Even postal people don't know anything about how the system works. It's ridiculous. It's so wild. So like they usually put directions online with photos where like if you see this street, then you go left. If you see this tree, you go this way. Like so you need to stick with that. And I wasn't sure if I got it right. So I stood there, was lost, and then I asked people, and then they started like recruiting more and more people until we were like 10 people, and everybody was like going into formation into different streets to like scout the area. Maybe this is where she was looking to find the hotel. And then they came back and consulted, and like they would just scout the entire area for me, and I was like, what's going on? Until they actually found my hostel, and they were like, this is it. And I looked at them like, this is a love hotel, this is not for me. And they're like, no, 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 the other one. I was like, okay. I was like, what are you doing? And then this lady who who oversaw everything, she was like, I like you, do you want to come join a festival, like a little family fest tomorrow? And I'm like, sure. Random stranger, I come. And it was the third biggest temple festival in all of Tokyo, like the wildest festival ever. Like the entire streets were packed, people were fighting to carry these shrines that were like traditional. And she just threw this coat over me, and she was like pushing me there, and then suddenly I was carrying the shrine where people like fought over doing it, and I was like, what? And people took pictures of me, and I was like, what's going on? So like fun stuff like that, and I'm still in touch with her. She's so amazing. So like you just meet random people and have random adventures like that, which are absolutely not planned at all, and make for the best stories. And then I wrote a book about it too and stuff, so it's just so cool.
Fabulous. It just sounds, it sounds like a whole adventure.
Yeah.
So the reason I created these podcasts or not podcasts, but interviews, chats, whatever they're called, was because I got sick through not listening to my emotions. And I firmly believe that it's really important to just check in and see how you're feeling. And so with that in mind, when people come on, I ask them and just to connect within, to see actually how are you feeling in this particular moment, because all feelings are valid. And I just offer that now, that chance for you to really connect in with what is actually going on for you right now. How are you feeling? And try not to, I can see you're engaging your eyes left, right, to think about it, and rather not to think, but to actually feel.
Well, it just like I love talking about travel in my stories. It makes me really happy, but it also currently, since I want to go travel, it makes me really wistful, where I'm like, oh, I wish I could do this right now. Wish I have like these shenanigans. And I'm really like currently having my eyes on going to Seoul for a month. And then I'm like, what if I am already in Seoul? I could just stay in Bangkok for another month and celebrate the New Year's. And then maybe I can go actually to Tokyo for 2 weeks and then go, like all of these things. It just like makes me super excited, but also sad at the same time because it's not there yet. And yeah, it just makes me want to like, where's this person who did all the stuff? Where's she? I need her right now.
It sounds to me like she's very, very there, actually. It just feels like it's just the mindset there's something within the mindset that's telling you not at this moment, but it sounds like you internally are really ready to be that.
Yeah, because like that's when I'm like the most like alive and the most successful is when I'm just like traveling and just have no idea what's going on. I just trust just the process. And when I'm not traveling, I'm in my head and thinking about the process and strategizing. And like I said, that's not my forte. If I strategize too much, I'm just putting myself in this box and then it's boring, stifling.
So my computer is now telling me I'm low on disk space, sorry. So unfortunately we have to wrap it up, otherwise we won't be able to save what we've been talking about. So thank you for coming along today and chatting to us.
Thank you.
Got in the notes how people can contact you, but I guess you show some of your work on which is the easiest way for people to access you. Is it on Instagram or?
I mean, I'm everywhere really, but yeah, currently Instagram, you can send me the DMs. You can see my photo work. That's the easiest, because all the other platforms are very much video based, and that's, not the best for just photos. So yeah, Instagram, just my name and photo with an F because it's German.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming along today and sharing and for interviewing me for the week as well.
Yeah.
Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. Bye.